Situations can bring out the best or the worst in people. Who could have imagined that the woman who stood at the altar, promising to love and cherish him, would abandon him in his darkest hour? She didn't just leave. She walked away while he lay helpless, hoping he wouldn't survive. He loved her. She said she loved him too. Their wedding was a dream, complete with vows of, "Till death do us part." But promises are easy to make when times are good, and love is easy to proclaim when life is smooth. After 11 months in a coma, he woke up to a nightmare he never could have foreseen. What happened to the woman who vowed to stay by his side? What could drive someone to such cold, calculated betrayal? And when he learned the truth, how far would he go to seek justice? Hold on to your emotions, because this story will challenge everything you think you know about love, loyalty, and human nature. Welcome to True Crime Story HQ. I thank you, my viewers, most especially my subscribers, for your support as we keep improving and bringing daily told and untold true crime stories update. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Life had always been kind to Kaylan Omari. A man of ambition, he had carved out a successful career in corporate finance, working as a senior analyst for a top-tier investment firm. His disciplined nature, charm, and diligence made him a rising star in his field. Despite his busy life, Kaylan remained grounded, deeply connected to his family and community in Atlanta, Georgia. It was during a friend's birthday party he first met Gloria Jules, a marketing executive with a sharp mind and a magnetic personality. Gloria wasn't just beautiful. Her confidence, intelligence, and warmth captivated everyone she met. She had her own successful career, managing high-profile campaigns for a prominent agency, and had always prided herself on her independence. Their first conversation was a spark that ignited an unforgettable connection. Gloria had been laughing with friends when Kaylan introduced himself, a little nervous but undeniably charming. They spent hours that evening discussing their dreams, values, and shared passion. By the end of the night, Kaylan knew he had met someone extraordinary. Their relationship blossomed quickly. Late-night phone calls turned into weekend trips, and soon they became inseparable. Kaylan, ever the romantic, planned a proposal that would reflect their love story. On a crisp autumn evening, he took Gloria to the rooftop of the same building where they had first met. With the city skyline as their backdrop, he knelt down and asked her to be his partner for life. Tears filled her eyes as she said yes, and their journey together began. Their wedding was nothing short of magical. The ceremony was held at an elegant vineyard surrounded by family and friends. Gloria wore a stunning lace gown that shimmered under the golden sunlight, while Kaylan stood tall in a tailored navy suit, his eyes never leaving hers. Their vows, heartfelt and intimate, included the promise to stand by each other till death do us part. The reception was a lively celebration filled with laughter, music, and dancing that carried into the night. In the months following their wedding, life was as close to perfect as it could be. They moved into a beautiful home in the suburbs, blending their individual styles to create a space that felt uniquely theirs. During quiet evenings, they'd sit on the porch, planning their future. Gloria suggested they wait 3 years before having children, reasoning that they should focus on building their careers and strengthening their relationship. Kaylan agreed, understanding her perspective. To solidify their commitment to shared goals, they decided to open a joint account. Combining their finances symbolized their trust in each other and their belief in building a secure future together. They both contributed to the account regularly, discussing budgets and long-term plans with excitement. It was a partnership built on mutual respect, understanding, and love. They were a power couple, balancing their demanding careers while keeping their love alive through weekly date nights and spontaneous adventures. Everything seemed to be falling into place. 2 years into their marriage, fate took an unexpected turn. On a rainy evening, as Kalin was driving home from a late meeting, his car hydroplaned on the slick highway. The crash was devastating. His car spun out of control and collided with a concrete barrier. Paramedics arrived quickly, but the severity of his injuries was evident. Kalin was rushed into emergency surgery, and by the time Gloria arrived at the hospital, the prognosis was grim. The doctors informed her that Kalin had suffered significant trauma and was in a coma. They were hopeful that he might regain consciousness within days, perhaps a week, but they couldn't make any guarantees. Gloria was overwhelmed, torn between fear for her husband and the pressure to remain strong. In the first few weeks, Gloria rarely left his side. She coordinated with the medical staff, managed their household affairs, and reassured Kalin's mother, Evelyn, who had moved in temporarily to support them. The hospital room was often filled with visitors, friends, colleagues, and extended family, all hoping for Kalin's recovery. But as the weeks turned into months, the visitors dwindled. Life went on for everyone else, but for Gloria, time seemed to stand still. She continued to visit the hospital, but the emotional toll began to weigh on her. She still cared for Kalin, but her vibrant personality seemed dimmed by the endless routine of hospital visits and uncertainty. By the 5th month, it was just Gloria and Evelyn who remained steadfast. Kalin's siblings visited occasionally, but their lives were busy, and their visits grew infrequent. Gloria began to feel trapped. She had made a vow to stay through sickness and health, but she never imagined this level of sacrifice. Every day she watched as her once strong husband lay motionless, kept alive by machines and the prayers of his loved ones. The strain began to show. Gloria, who had once been a picture of grace and resilience, started to feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She confided in close friends, expressing her fears that Kalin might never wake up. Some encouraged her to stay strong, while others suggested she consider her own happiness. The latter advice lingered in her mind. Evelyn noticed the change in Gloria's demeanor. She was no longer the attentive wife who had once held Kalin's hand through the nights. Her visits became shorter, her conversations with the medical staff less frequent. Evelyn, still hopeful for her son's recovery, urged Gloria to hold on. "He'll come back to us," she said one evening, but Gloria only nodded, her eyes betraying her growing doubt. Deep down, Gloria had already started to question her place in Kalin's life. Would she spend years by his bedside, waiting for a recovery that might never come? Or would she cut her losses and reclaim the life she believed she deserved? It was a decision that would change everything, and one that Kalin, still trapped in silence, could never have anticipated. Would you stay in the marriage hoping your spouse regains consciousness, even if it takes years? What if they never wake up? What if they pass away after all that time? Wouldn't you regret waiting, dedicating your life to uncertainty? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For Gloria, these questions loomed over her daily. 5 months had passed since Kalin's accident, and he remained in a coma. The hospital room, once filled with hope and supportive visitors, was now quiet, save for the steady hum of the machines keeping him alive. At first, Gloria had clung to the belief that he would wake up. She had spent nights by his side, whispering words of encouragement and willing him to return to her. But as the months dragged on, her resolve weakened. The life she had imagined with Kalin, a thriving career, vacations, a growing family, was slipping further away. One evening, as she sat in their empty home, Gloria made a decision. "I can't keep doing this," she told herself. She rationalized her choice. He may never wake up. And even if he does, what kind of life will we have? I can't put my life on hold indefinitely. With that thought, she decided to file for a no-fault divorce. She convinced herself that it was the only way forward, that she deserved to live a life free of the burdens Kaylin's condition had placed on her. She chose to walk away. But Gloria's betrayal didn't end there. As she prepared to leave Kaylin, her true nature began to reveal itself. In her mind, his chances of survival were slim, and the thought of their shared finances being tied up in a joint account was unbearable to her. "What's the point of leaving all that money unused?" she rationalized. Without hesitation, she emptied their joint account. Every dollar they had saved together, money meant for their future, was now hers. But even that wasn't enough. Gloria began investigating how she could access Kaylin's personal accounts. She consulted with a lawyer, only to learn that without a power of attorney or being named as his financial deputy, she had no legal claim to his funds. Applying to the Court of Protection was an option, but it was a lengthy and complicated process, one Gloria had no interest in pursuing. Instead, she took the simplest route. Kaylin had trusted her with his bank card PIN during their marriage, and she used it to make multiple withdrawals from his personal accounts. Bit by bit, she drained what was left of his savings. With each transaction, Gloria distanced herself further from Kaylin. Her hospital visits, once frequent and filled with emotion, became shorter and less personal. She would stop by briefly, offering vague reassurances to Kaylin's mother, Evelyn, before leaving again. Eventually, the visits stopped altogether. Only Evelyn remained, tirelessly sitting by her son's side, praying for his recovery. Gloria's final act of betrayal came on the day her divorce was finalized. Evelyn, desperate to keep her family together, begged her to reconsider. "He's your husband," Evelyn pleaded. "Think about the love you shared, the life you built together. He needs you now more than ever." But Gloria's response was cold and detached. "I have a life to live," she said. "I never planned to spend it waiting by a hospital bed." With that, she left Kaylin's life for good. She had taken everything, his money, his trust, and his hope, and walked away without looking back. Evelyn, heartbroken and left to manage Kaylin's care alone, turned to other family members for financial support. Together, they scraped together what they could to cover his medical expenses, refusing to give up on him. While Kaylin lay unconscious, Gloria moved on with her life. She remarried just 2 months later. It had been 11 months of waiting, praying, and clinging to hope. Evelyn Omari had spent countless nights by her son's bedside, whispering words of encouragement, holding his hand, and refusing to give up. Every morning she woke with the same prayer on her lips: "Let today be the day." And then, one quiet Tuesday morning, her prayer was answered. Kaylin's eyelids fluttered, his fingers twitched. Evelyn froze, her heart racing. "Kaylin," she whispered, leaning closer. His eyes opened, weak but unmistakably alive. Evelyn gasped, her hands covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. "Kaylin! Oh my God, Kaylin!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with joy and disbelief. She reached for the call button, summoning the nurses as she clutched his hand tightly. Amara, his sister, rushed into the room moments later, her own tears flowing as she saw her brother awake for the first time in nearly a year. The nurses checked his vitals, their smiles reflecting the joy in the room. Evelyn couldn't stop crying, overwhelmed with gratitude. Her son, who she had feared might never return to her, was back. Kaylin's voice, barely above a whisper, broke the moment of joy. Where is Gloria?" Evelyn hesitated, her joy momentarily overshadowed by the question she had dreaded hearing. She stepped out for a moment, Kaylin. "She'll be back soon," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Satisfied for the moment, Kaylin's eyes closed again, his exhaustion pulling him back into sleep. Evelyn and Amara exchanged a glance, their expressions a mix of relief and apprehension. Hours later, Caelan woke again. His voice was stronger this time, though still frail. "Where is Gloria?" he asked once more, his eyes searching the room. Evelyn's composure wavered. She couldn't keep up the facade. Her voice was quiet but firm as she finally said, "She left Caelan." "Left?" he repeated, his brow furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean, left? How long have I been here?" Amara looked at her mother, silently urging her to answer. Evelyn took a deep breath and said, 11 months, Caelan." The weight of those words hit him like a freight train. 11 months, he echoed, his voice breaking. "She couldn't wait for even 1 year. She left me when I needed her most." Tears streamed down his face, his heart breaking with every passing second. Evelyn, still reeling from the joy of seeing her son awake, now felt her heart ache for him. "Caelan, I'm so sorry," she said softly, stroking his hand. He turned his head toward her, his voice pleading. "Call her, please. I need to talk to her." Evelyn shook her head, tears welling in her eyes again. "Her numbers aren't available anymore, Caelan. She doesn't want anything to do with us." In the days that followed, the reality of his situation began to sink in. Visitors came to see him, friends, colleagues, even distant relatives. They brought flowers, cards, and well-wishes, but none of it mattered to Caelan. He was only waiting for one face, the face of the woman he had loved with all his heart. She never came. With every visitor, Caelan grew more aware of the void her absence created. His once strong spirit felt shattered, and the memories of their life together haunted him. He replayed the day they exchanged vows, the laughter they shared, and the plans they made for their future. All of it now felt like a cruel joke. One afternoon, a former colleague inadvertently let slip the truth. Gloria hadn't just left him. She had remarried. The news hit Caelan like a blow to the chest. She had moved on, built a new life, while he lay unconscious, fighting for his. "How could she?" he asked his mother, his voice filled with anguish. "How could she leave me? And so quickly?" Evelyn could only hold his hand, her heart breaking for her son. "She wasn't the woman you thought she was, Caelan," she said softly. "But you're here now, you're alive, and that's what matters." But to Caelan, it wasn't enough. The betrayal, the abandonment, the remorselessness, it consumed him. As Caelan continued his recovery, he began to piece together the full extent of Gloria's betrayal. 3 weeks into his rehabilitation, he requested access to his bank accounts to check his finances. The nurses brought him a laptop, and with trembling hands, he logged in. The numbers staring back at him didn't make sense. His accounts were empty, completely drained. Their joint savings, the money they had so carefully planned to use for their future, was gone. Even his personal account, which Gloria shouldn't have been able to access, had been emptied. "How is this possible?" he asked his mother in disbelief. Evelyn sighed deeply. She took everything, Caelan. The joint account, your personal savings. She even tried to access more, but couldn't without legal authorization." "She knew my PIN," he muttered, realization dawning on him. "She used my card. She planned all of this. She didn't just leave, she made sure I had nothing to come back to." The depth of her betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the intent. She had taken every resource he had, leaving him to recover with nothing but the support of his mother and a handful of family members. Caelan's sorrow began to transform into something else. Anger. Not the kind of blind rage that leads to reckless decisions, but a cold, calculating fury. He wanted answers, and more importantly, he wanted justice. "She didn't think I'd wake up," he said, his voice hardening. "She thought I was as good as dead. She didn't want me to recover because then she'd have to face what she did. Evelyn nodded solemnly. But you did wake up, Kaylin, and now you can decide what to do next. Kaylin Omari's recovery was progressing well, but his mind was far from at peace. The questions gnawed at him daily. Why did she leave? Why did she take everything? Who had she become? He needed answers, not just for closure, but for justice. Using what little energy he had, Kaylin began piecing together the puzzle. He contacted old friends, combed through social media, and even reached out to mutual acquaintances who had stayed in touch with Gloria. It wasn't long before the pieces began to fall into place. He discovered that Gloria had remarried just 2 months after finalizing their divorce. The name of her new husband struck a nerve. Rashad Harlan, her ex-boyfriend. Kaylin remembered Gloria mentioning Rashad briefly in their early days of dating. He had been someone she claimed was in her past, a chapter closed. But now it was clear Rashad had never fully left the picture. The timeline was damning. The speed with which she remarried suggested their relationship had resumed long before the divorce was finalized. Kaylin uncovered subtle hints. Text messages she had left on their shared devices, whispers from mutual friends who admitted seeing them together before the accident. It became increasingly evident that her betrayal had been premeditated. She hadn't just abandoned him in his darkest hour. She had been planning her escape long before tragedy struck. Armed with the truth, Kaylin made the difficult decision to confront Gloria face to face. He needed to hear her say it, to understand how the woman he once loved could have become a stranger. They met at a coffee shop in the city. Kaylin arrived first, his heart pounding as he sat in a quiet corner, waiting. When she entered, she was as poised and polished as ever, her confidence radiating from her like an impenetrable shield. She took a seat across from him, her expression neutral but guarded. Kaylin didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Why?" he asked, his voice low but steady. "Why did you leave me? Why did you take everything and marry him?" Gloria didn't flinch. She met his gaze with a cool detachment that sent a chill down his spine. "Kaylin, I had to move on," she said, her tone devoid of emotion. "You were in a coma. You could have stayed that way for years, or worse, you might never have woken up. I couldn't put my life on hold indefinitely." "You couldn't wait 1 year." Kaylin's voice cracked, his frustration spilling over. "You promised me forever, Gloria, and then you just walked away." Her response was as cold as it was calculated. "You're fine now," she said with a dismissive shrug. "Move on, Kaylin. You're alive, you're recovering, you'll be okay, and I'm happy where I am." Kaylin felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. He had prepared for anger, for tears, even for remorse. But the indifference she displayed was more painful than he had imagined. She didn't see what she had done as betrayal. She saw it as self-preservation. "What about the money?" he asked, his voice tightening. "What about the savings we built together, the accounts you emptied without a second thought? Was that self-preservation too?" Gloria leaned back in her chair, her expression unwavering. "You weren't going to need it," she said simply. "I didn't know if you'd ever wake up, and if you did, I figured you'd understand. Life doesn't stop for anyone, Kaylin. Not even for you." Kaylin sat there silent, his emotions a mix of heartbreak and fury. Her words confirmed what he already knew. She had never believed in him, never hoped for his recovery. She had moved on as if he had already died. As Kaylin left the coffee shop, a storm of emotions churned inside him. Part of him wanted to lash out, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she had caused him. He thought about what justice might look like: public humiliation, legal action, or even revenge. But as he walked through the busy streets, another part of him took over, a quieter, more determined side. Revenge wouldn't heal him, and it wouldn't change what had happened. What he wanted wasn't chaos, it was justice. Caelan returned home and began formulating a plan. He reached out to his lawyer, gathering evidence of the financial theft and betrayal. He meticulously documented every withdrawal she had made from their accounts, compiling a case that would hold up in court. The anger he felt was no longer consuming him. It was fueling him. Caelan realized that the best way to move forward wasn't to destroy Gloria. It was to reclaim what was rightfully his and prove that she couldn't break him. She didn't think I'd wake up, he thought to himself. She didn't think I'd fight back. But she's about to find out just how wrong she was. Caelan Omari knew he couldn't let Gloria's betrayal go unchallenged. Armed with evidence of her financial deception, he contacted his lawyer to begin legal proceedings. It wasn't just about the money. It was about holding her accountable for the choices she made while he lay helpless in a hospital bed. The lawyer, astonished by the details of the case, assured Caelan that he had a strong claim. Gloria's unauthorized withdrawals from their joint account and her use of his personal accounts were clear violations. She had no legal right to the funds, and her actions constituted fraud. The case gained momentum quickly. Investigators traced her transactions, uncovering a pattern of deliberate withdrawals. They verified that she had used Caelan's personal bank card without permission and transferred large sums into her own accounts. Even more damning was the timeline, which revealed her actions were calculated and premeditated, occurring shortly before and after she filed for divorce. Caelan's lawyer filed a formal complaint, and soon Gloria was facing charges of fraud and financial misconduct. The weight of the evidence against her was undeniable. The trial began with a palpable tension in the courtroom. Caelan sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, his composure steady, but his mind racing. Gloria, dressed impeccably, sat across the room with her defense attorney, her face a mask of confidence. But beneath her polished exterior, there was a flicker of unease. The prosecution laid out the case with precision, presenting bank records, transaction histories, and testimonies from financial experts. They painted a clear picture of how Gloria had systematically drained Caelan's accounts, taking advantage of his incapacitated state. Caelan's testimony was the emotional centerpiece of the trial. He recounted the events leading up to his accident, his trust in Gloria, and the shock of waking up to discover her betrayal. His voice cracked as he described the pain of realizing she had abandoned him, taken everything, and started a new life without him. "She didn't just leave me," Caelan said, his voice trembling. "She took away my future, my security, and my faith in the person I thought she was. And she did it knowing I might never wake up." The courtroom was silent as Caelan spoke, the weight of his words sinking in. Even members of the jury appeared, moved by his testimony. The defense attempted to paint Gloria as a woman under immense pressure, claiming she acted out of fear and desperation. But the evidence was too compelling to ignore. The prosecution countered by highlighting her calculated actions, including her rapid remarriage to her ex-boyfriend, and the clear intent behind her financial decisions. Witnesses were called, including Evelyn, who tearfully described her son's journey and the devastation Gloria's actions had caused. The prosecution closed their argument by emphasizing that Gloria had not only violated the law, but had also betrayed the very foundation of trust in their marriage. In the end, the jury found Gloria guilty of fraud and financial misconduct. Gloria Jules was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud and financial misconduct. The judge also ordered her to pay full restitution to Caelan Omari, which included the amount she had stolen from their joint and personal accounts, along with interest to cover the time the funds were unavailable. The judge cited her premeditation, lack of remorse, and deliberate exploitation of Caelan's vulnerable state as aggravating factors in determining her sentence. In addition to the prison term, Gloria was barred from holding any positions that involved financial responsibilities for a period of 10 years following her release. As Kalin left the courtroom, he felt a mixture of emotions. There was a sense of quiet satisfaction in knowing that Gloria was finally being held accountable. Justice had been served, and the weight of her betrayal felt lighter now that the truth had been acknowledged. But the victory was bittersweet. No amount of restitution or punishment could erase the pain of what she had done or the scars it had left on his heart. The memories of their life together, the promises, the laughter, the dreams, were forever tainted. Kalin knew he had a long road ahead. Rebuilding his life wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to move forward. As he walked out of the courthouse, the sun shining on his face, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. She thought she could take everything from me, he thought to himself. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. Kalin's journey wasn't over, but this chapter was finally coming to a close. Justice had been served, and while the pain lingered, so did his resolve to live a life that was stronger and better than the one she had tried to destroy. Kalin Omari's journey of recovery didn't end in the courtroom. While justice had been served, his life was still in pieces, and rebuilding it would take time and effort. Physical therapy became a daily routine, helping him regain strength and mobility after nearly a year in a coma. Slowly, he found himself returning to the man he once was, stronger, more determined, and more resilient than ever. Emotionally, the process was more challenging. Nights were the hardest, as memories of Gloria haunted him. He struggled with anger, sadness, and betrayal, but he knew he couldn't let those emotions consume him. Therapy helped him unpack the pain, and he began to understand that seeking revenge had never been about erasing the hurt. It was about reclaiming his dignity and holding her accountable. He threw himself into new projects, revisiting hobbies he had once loved and reconnecting with old friends. His career, though disrupted, was another focus. With determination, Kalin started consulting part-time, rebuilding his professional life step by step. As he healed, Kalin found himself reflecting on the lessons he had learned through his ordeal. He realized that trust is fragile and must be given cautiously. But he also learned the importance of trusting himself. Resilience, he discovered, wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving, despite the pain. He began journaling his thoughts, sharing them with close friends and eventually online, where others found inspiration in his story. His writing often ended with the same question: what would you have done in my place? Would you have fought for justice, or let the past go? Kalin's reflections weren't just about betrayal. They were about growth, self-worth, and the power of moving forward. He came to understand that while he couldn't change what had happened, he could control how he responded to it. Kalin's life wasn't the same as it had been before the accident, but it was richer in ways he hadn't anticipated. He began to see his experience not just as a tragedy, but as a turning point, a chance to rebuild a life rooted in strength, wisdom, and purpose. "I'm not who I was," he often said, "and that's okay. I'm stronger now." With time, Kalin started looking toward the future with hope. He began to focus on what lay ahead rather than what he had lost. His relationships with his family deepened, and he found solace in their unwavering support. As he closed this chapter of his life, Kalin turned to the audience. Life doesn't always go the way we plan, but it's how we respond to life's challenges that defines us. What would you have done in my place? Kalin's journey was one of love, betrayal, and ultimately resilience. From the bliss of his marriage to the devastating betrayal by the woman he trusted most, to the battle for justice and his eventual recovery, his story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. He recounted the moments that defined his journey, waking up to discover his wife had left him, the shock of her financial deception, the confrontation that revealed her lack of remorse, and the hard-fought battle in court. Through it all, Kaylin emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to move forward. Kaylin posed a final question to the audience. Does betrayal define the end of a relationship, or does it reveal the truth about those we love? And more importantly, does it reveal the truth about ourselves? He encouraged viewers to think about their own relationships, their own boundaries, and the importance of self-respect. Kaylin ended with a heartfelt invitation. Your thoughts matter. What would you have done? Share your opinions in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe for more tales of resilience and justice.